All right, we are continuing to work on our creature collage composite using at least 5 different creatures or 5 different references. I used flowers as well. And I have these different components put in, several just on the head, 2 on the neck, and then blending this chest into the wings of this golden eagle. Then I need to cut out these feet, and I also need to put in a tail. So we were working on this kind of like an assembly line. And what that means is, as we put things together, we would do it off to the side in a higher resolution, and then we'd be able to bring them all together in full resolution. And I talked about it like the assembly line on a car, putting the engine parts together before you install it. And so now we're getting to where we're installing it all into one thing. And I have to decide what reference I want for my tail. I'm referencing my beginning sketch and seeing what other aspects. I didn't pick anything unusual for the feet, and I already have enough. So for this, I'll probably keep the eagle's feet as they are, but I do want to find something more exotic for the tail. And I pulled this. This is a wing from another bird. We have a layer, auto select for the layer showing. And that might work nicely as a tail or as a portion of a tail. Even though it's not from a fish, it's from a different bird, so it will count. And it's because you don't want everything to be too out there. And I want to finish this up for you guys. So how do I bring all these elements together? Well, the most helpful trick is the clone stamp. And this is using one layer on top of everything, which we call a clone stamp layer, using this clone stamp tool with all layers sampled. Using a low opacity, we can transition textures together. So whereas they look very off here, by using that clone stamp, I can kind of copy and paste from different layers and bring them all together. It helps carry textures and color all into the same place. We've also seen that a lot of this assignment is about carefully clipping out reference, carefully selecting around elements. Whether you're doing it by hand or whether you're doing it with the magic wand or the quick selection tool. Actually, that might be a good one to try here. Oh yeah, it's just clumsy, unfortunately. But remember that you can always modify selections. So once you have something, then you can go in with your lasso. And for instance, I can hold down Alt Option and I can subtract this claw from that quick selection tool selection. And this is to introduce you to compositing on a figurative element, not just a setting. And that's a big job. So it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to get close. You'll also see the quick selection tool will often leave little 1-pixel trails that then need to be deleted. And then you'll see little fuzz every once in a while too. We'll look at that at the end and see how that can be taken care of before we finally refine and finish off this project. Right now I just want to cut out these claws. I've labeled some of my layers to kind of keep them clear. And you do that by double clicking on the layer's name and just typing in your own label. And I've used Command E, selecting multiple layers to consolidate layers like the head and neck pieces. once I feel like that component is finished. It allows me to work on it as a whole instead of as a bunch of disparate pieces. So all good things we're getting used to. I'm actually going to cut out the tail on this leg as well, because I'm going to be replacing it with another tail. And we want our creature to show head to toe on just a blank background. I'm going to leave a lot of the tail, though, as transition. Okay, now I have this tail part that I need to transition in. And the first thing is I can erase away the things that don't help, like this red. And I think I want to find another reference. And I think I want to move it, or let's see, I want to transition with a lower opacity eraser, still soft edged. See how much I can use of the existing tail. Maybe just a little bit. Now the other option we have, and we've done this a little bit even with our landscape, but dodging and burning is now kind of an appropriate thing as well. I'm going to take the legs and I'm going to burn their edges a little bit in the midtones with an exposure that's less than 30, because it's a very strong tool, just to help them stand out on whatever new tail I use. And because I've cleaned around them in the background, I don't need to worry about messing up their edges. Their edges are fine. I need to worry about helping the lighting be defined. And then on the other side, I can always dodge them and lighten some of these as well, especially in the midtones. It's always safe to work in the midtones. All right, so I've got some pretty defined claws, a nice little leather bracelet there, but I might need to transition some of these areas. Okay, and I can erase away a little bit of this tail. Start to get an idea of how it might transform. Also, don't forget your basic compositing tricks, being able to warp, distort, skew, change the shape and perspective of your components. Because often that can make all the difference in how believable they are. And before I bring in some more tail reference, clean up a lot of this mess. All right. So now, let's see. I want to clean up around the tail's edge a little bit. There's a lot of deep shadows here. And because it's organic, I can largely make up my own shapes. And because now I'm focused on the creature, I don't need all this extra space around it. So I'm going to crop basically to what my sketch is. But because my wings grew a little bit beyond the sketch, that's why I had that extra space. I will save a lot of memory by cropping those unnecessary pixels out, even before I save. Now this file is about 1.5 gigs. This gets it closer to 1 gig. I'm going to save it. as I look for my tail reference. And one tail I like a lot is this rooster. Sometimes I'll just open it up in preview and select it and copy and paste it. But the way we've been doing it is just selecting the file, drag and dropping it right as an icon. You'll see it full size there. I can flip it. I can rotate it all before I even place it. So maybe something like that. That's like the overall shape and edge of it. And then I can lasso around it roughly, allowing for enough overlap. And then Command J, duplicate it onto its own layer. And then a quick selection later. Rough out the shape. Same old skills used repetitively over and over again. Based on your own creative decisions. And it will leave these, because I'm using the quick selection tool, it will leave these kind of 1 pixel trails that need to be cleaned up. But I'm dealing with pretty soft textures here. Huh. So I can just use my lasso, loop around all of those. Kind of cut some of these out. More to my liking. I can also just take the overall opacity of that down, and that can help me place the other tail reference I have. And in this case, help me kind of shape it and warp it a little bit to match the curve. Fill in the shape. And we're not trying too hard to make these things recognizable as individual features. I don't want it to be so easily recognizable as a rooster tail. I want it to make sense for my overall design, looking at my sketch, my vision for what this creature can be. Yeah, I liked it better simpler. Okay. All right, now I'll put the opacity back on and start transitioning. With that existing edge. Also dodging and burning. I'm going to dodge that rooster tail. It's pretty dark. So I'm especially going to dodge its midtones. Kind of brighten it up. It's all about getting these crazy colors in there. Even in the tail. And where the lighting's extreme, like this shadow side, I can even